Welcome to Alien Love Stories, the only channel where love doesn't stop at Earth. What if the only evidence of your alien romance was something you didn't remember writing? Tonight's story begins with a whisper from the past, not a memory, but something older than memory, something that refused to be erased. I wasn't looking for anything that night, not answers, not trouble, not lost love. Just a box of winter gloves buried in the back of a hallway closet I hadn't opened in 6 years. The power had flickered earlier, cold front moving in, and I figured, better to be ready. I didn't expect the floorboard to creak under my foot in a way it never had before. I didn't expect the dust to feel disturbed before I even touched the shelf. And I definitely didn't expect to find it. It wasn't hidden. Not really. More like placed. Tucked behind a shoebox labeled camping gear I hadn't touched since the last time I'd pretended to care about normal things. It was wrapped in dark velvet, not dusty, not weathered, clean, like someone had just set it there a few hours ago. Like someone wanted me to find it now, not sooner, not later. It was a book, small, leather-bound, no title, no markings, but heavy in a way that had nothing to do with weight. It didn't feel old, it felt timeless, like it had existed long before me and would outlive every word I'd ever say. I didn't recognize it, I swear I didn't. But my hands knew how to hold it before my brain caught up. And when I opened it, something inside me, something quiet and buried, exhaled like it had been holding its breath for years. The first page didn't have a title, just a line of handwriting, my handwriting, except not quite. Like someone who had studied my script perfectly, but didn't understand the tremble I always hide in the downstrokes. It read, "You won't remember writing this. That's how you'll know it's true." I blinked. I read it again, and again, and again. My heart didn't race. My hands didn't shake. It was worse than that. I went still. Utterly, completely still. Because something deep inside me had just confirmed a fear I didn't know I carried. This was mine, but I didn't make it. The next page began like a diary, dated even, 5 years ago. I read the entry in silence. Something about a tower, a signal, a dream I kept having, the smell of rain that wasn't earth rain, the feeling of someone watching me, but not like a stalker, like a question waiting for an answer. I turned the page. Another entry, a name I'd never said before but somehow tasted familiar. Selari. The words described her like a storm with breath, like light that bent toward emotion, like she wasn't from here, and yet had always been here. I kept reading, pages of encounters, of meetings beneath stars that didn't belong to any charted sky, of conversations that weren't verbal, but still filled entire evenings with meaning, of touch that didn't involve skin, of presence that restructured how I defined the word real. None of these memories existed in my head, but they were written in my hand. Not metaphorically, literally. The curves, the ink pressure, the placement, my style, except softened, like I'd written them in a trance, or like someone had borrowed my body to speak what my heart refused to say out loud. I closed the book, stared at the velvet cover, waited for logic to return. It didn't. What returned instead was a feeling, a scent, the faintest trace of something I hadn't smelled in years, maybe never. Like static and lilac, like a hum wrapped in silk. And then, my lights flickered, just once, enough for me to look up. The room felt different, not haunted, held, like someone or something was standing just out of sight, waiting to see what I would do next. So I opened the book again, flipped forward. Some pages were blank, others full of writing I didn't remember composing, but now felt like confessions meant only for me. One passage stopped me cold. I loved her. I loved her like gravity loves stars. And when they came to take that love from me, I erased myself instead. I couldn't breathe for a second, because the next line wasn't mine. It was a response, in a different hand. Finer, cleaner, impossible. I found your diary. Even if you forget me, this will remember us. I dropped the book. It didn't hit the floor. It hovered, suspended in midair for just a blink, then fell, softly, no bounce, no sound, just the kind of dissent that says, "You're not crazy, you're remembering." I didn't sleep that night. I couldn't. I placed the book on my bedside table. It pulsed once, not with light, but with memory. And in the stillness, I heard something, a voice I couldn't place. Not male, not female, not even a voice, really, just the shape of one. And it said, "You're not done with me. I'm not done with you. Turn the page." I should have burned it or locked it up, or at the very least, stopped touching it. But some stories don't wait for permission. Some memories, the ones you tried too hard to forget, don't like being buried. And this one, it wasn't just crawling out of the grave. It was rebuilding the world it came from, right in front of me. The diary was still on my bedside table when I woke up. I hadn't touched it since that first night. Didn't need to, because when I opened my eyes, the room didn't look the same. The walls were still mine. The paint, the window, the familiar crack near the ceiling fan. But the air had changed. It shimmered, not with light, with suggestion, like the space around me was humming with the memory of something not quite here. And on the floor, in the corner, just out of focus, I saw her, not clearly, not yet, just the outline of someone sitting with knees drawn to chest, arms wrapped around herself, hair suspended weightless, like it was underwater. A silhouette of presence, like the echo of a person, flickering, watching, waiting. I blinked. She disappeared. I sat up. The diary was open. I swear to you, I hadn't touched it, but a new page had revealed itself. Ink still wet, still drying, as if it had just been written in the last few seconds. But no pen, no hand, no explanation, only a message. "Do you remember the garden?" Garden? I had never owned a garden. I live in a second-floor apartment. No backyard, no plants except for a dying cactus on my kitchen counter. But the moment I read those words, the room shifted again. Not violently, not magically, just purposefully. And suddenly, I was standing in soil, not physically, not hallucinating, something in between, a projection, number A, memory space. Like the book wasn't just remembering me, it was reconstructing what I had once refused to recall. There were trees, massive ones, glowing vines, a soft pulse beneath my feet, like the ground was alive, and stars above, not the ones from Earth. These stars were purple, like they'd been painted with sadness. And beside me, her hand, not holding mine, hovering near, close enough for heat, far enough for longing. And I knew this wasn't imagination. This had happened. I just didn't remember how. The diary flipped itself. A breeze without wind. A page turned. Another entry appeared. My writing again. "She planted stars in my mouth so I'd never speak our secret, but I swallowed them wrong. Now I taste light every time I try to lie." I read it 5 times. I didn't understand, but my body did, because I started crying. No trigger, no sadness. Just the pure release of something returning. Something once loved, then lost, then stolen. I walked to the mirror, looked at myself. Something in my eyes had shifted, a shimmer behind the brown, like something had taken root again, like memory wasn't locked in my brain anymore. It was written into my biology, and now it was awakening. The diary glowed faintly. It pulsed like a living thing. I approached it, didn't sit, didn't blink, just stared, and the next line burned itself into the page before my eyes. "You said you'd find me again, even if they wiped you, even if it broke you, even if Earth tried to bury the truth under silence. I'm still here." Then the room fell still. No sound, no movement, only a question forming behind my teeth. "Selari, is it really you?" And before the words left my lips, I heard a whisper in the walls. "I never left. They say memory is unreliable, that it's elastic, moldable, that every time we recall something, we edit it, twist it, break it a little more. But no one ever told me what to do with a memory that returned without permission, a memory that didn't fit anywhere. Not in my life, Not in my history, not even in this world, because what happened next didn't feel like remembering. It felt like being remembered by something bigger than me. I was holding the diary again, didn't remember picking it up. One second I was lying on my bed trying to breathe through the pressure in my chest. The next, the ink on the page bloomed like smoke under glass. And then, I wasn't in my room anymore. I was in a forest, not a real one, or maybe too real. The kind of place you only see in dreams written by someone who misses you. Everything shimmered, light fell in directions that didn't obey physics. The wind didn't push, it sang. And in the center of it all, Selari, laughing, touching my face with hands made of warmth, saying my name, not with sound, but with something deeper, like my name was a chord, and her presence was the instrument tuned to play it. And I was smiling, loving her, touching her, kissing her under skies that bent like silk. The kiss didn't feel human, not in the way of lips and nerves. It felt like time had paused to make room for us, like we were two frequencies finally in resonance. But then, something shattered. I was back in my room, sitting on the floor, gasping, the diary still open in my lap, hands trembling, heartbeat in my throat. The room dimmed for just a second, like the light bulbs were reacting to me. And on the page, in my handwriting, April 14th, 2022. She kissed me in the gravityless garden beneath the second moon. The sky turned violet. I promised her I wouldn't forget. My chest locked. April 14th, 2022. I checked my phone. That date wasn't a blur. It was solid. I was here, on Earth, working late, alone. No second moon, no garden, just paperwork and reheated noodles. It never happened. It couldn't have, except I felt it. My lips still tingled. My spine remembered the way she held me. I tasted her name. I knew what her tears felt like, even though I had no memory of seeing her cry. How? How do you prove a memory that contradicts reality, that rewrites physics, that suggests either I am broken or the world is lying? I went online, looked up moon data, satellite reports, unusual gravitational anomalies on April 14th. Nothing, except one Reddit thread from someone in South Africa claiming the stars blinked wrong that night. Downvoted, ignored. No one else saw a second moon. No one else remembered the sky turning violet. But I did, and the diary did. And Selari, God, she wasn't fiction. She wasn't a dream. She was a truth buried so deep the earth itself had tried to smother it. I flipped the page. New ink, another memory waiting. This time, a beach, black sand, her voice saying, "This isn't your planet, but it used to be." What did that mean? What planet? What past? Then a name appeared, scrawled sideways in the margin. Avenus. I didn't write that, not with my conscious hand, but my body reacted, like someone whispered it directly to my DNA. Avenus. It shook something in me, something ancient, something tragic. I looked up, the room blurred, and for half a second, the sky outside my window didn't look familiar. The stars were different, aligned in patterns I'd never seen. And then, just like that, they were gone, back to normal, almost, because one star kept blinking, not flickering, blinking, like it knew I was watching. The diary pulsed again, the words on the page rearranged. And at the bottom, in both our hands, mine and hers, "If you're reading this, it means I'm still trying to come back." Most people think the worst thing that can happen is forgetting someone you loved. But that's not the worst part. The worst part is discovering you were never allowed to remember in the first place, that someone or something decided you weren't ready for that kind of truth, and they took it from you, not by force, by method, by systems, by erasure. The next morning I woke with ink on my fingertips, not from writing, from touching. The diary had left marks on me, tiny symbols, barely visible, geometric, precise, faintly glowing under certain light. I held them under the lamp. They pulsed once, then vanished, like they didn't want to be seen for too long. I wasn't scared, just changed. Every second now felt like it was folding into a larger pattern I didn't understand, but the diary did. I opened it again. No hesitation this time. The next page was blank, then filled itself in, one letter at a time. They are watching for this. Keep the lights off when reading. Your memory was a threat. They took it to protect themselves, but I kept a part of you alive in here. My throat went dry. I whispered, "Who's they?" The ink responded, "Look in the basement." Now here's the thing. I don't have a basement. Not in the traditional sense. I live in a converted building. Old tech, repurposed from some military research campus in the 80s. The unit came with a locked access panel in the floor that I was told never to touch. Outdated sub-utility, sealed. That's what the realtor said, but that panel had always made a sound. Low, software, like something asleep under concrete. And now, it was humming. I pried it open. Dust flew. A cold breath of air rose up from below. Metal stairs, rusty, narrow, descending into blackness. No light, no switch. But I didn't need one, because I wasn't alone. The diary glowed in my hand. Not like a flashlight, like a guide. It pulsed in sync with something deeper, something below. And as I descended, the hum in the wall shifted, became rhythmic, almost like heartbeat. The room below wasn't large, but it was dense. Wires, tubes, old analog monitors. And in the center, a file cabinet, locked. But the lock snapped open when I touched it, as if it recognized me. Inside, paper files, yellowed, handwritten, stamps with symbols I'd never seen, photos of people, ordinary people, all labeled with a date and a phrase, M-class encounter, memory redacted. I froze, flipped through pages. There were dozens, some crossed out, some marked recovered, others burned at the edges, and then a photo of me standing in the black sand of a beach that didn't exist on any map, smiling, beside a shape made of light, Selari. Underneath, in red ink, Subject 47B, prolonged attachment to entity AV-N5, initiated voluntary memory wipe. Emotional retention unstable. Diary protocol deployed. I dropped the file. My knees buckled. Voluntary memory wipe? Me? Why would I choose to forget her? Unless forgetting was the only way to protect her. Unless someone was chasing us. Unless this whole thing wasn't just about love, but about hiding it, because it meant something they couldn't control. The next file confirmed it. Reports, timelines, an operation called Silver Fade, a black-budget program dedicated to identifying and neutralizing long-term human extraterrestrial intimacy events. Intimacy events. They made us sound like a virus, something to contain, erase, neutralize. They weren't scared of the alien. They were scared of connection, of what it would do to the world if people found out they could be loved by something beyond Earth. I stumbled back upstairs, clutching the diary, breathing like the air was different now, because it was. The sky outside looked the same, but I no longer trusted it, and I knew if they found out the diary had reactivated, they'd come for me again. But this time, I wouldn't let them take her. I held the book to my chest. It pulsed once, and in my own voice written across the next page, they took her from me. So I let them take everything else. But love doesn't die with memory. It hides in pages, and one day, it writes back. Some truths don't hide in darkness. They hide in silence. They wait patiently, behind walls you built for yourself. And when the silence breaks, they don't shout. They whisper. Just enough to make you lean closer. Just enough to make you wonder if maybe the worst thing you could do is remember everything you once begged to forget. I didn't sleep that night. Couldn't. Not after seeing that file. Not after reading the phrase voluntary memory wipe initiated. Not forced. Not erased by some shadowy agency against my will. Voluntary. I had chosen this. And now, the choice was back. The diary pulsed as if it already knew. I stared at it for hours, didn't touch it, didn't breathe too deeply. because part of me still feared what might come if I opened the next page. What if I wasn't strong enough to see it? What if it broke me again? What if I had loved her so much that remembering the end would undo me? But that wasn't even the real fear. The real fear was, what if I remembered it all and still couldn't get her back? By sunrise, the book had changed. It now glowed faintly blue at the edges, like its heartbeat had slowed, waiting on me. A new page appeared, blank at first. Then 2 lines formed in script I couldn't identify, but understood completely. There is a door, but it will not open with hope. It opens with pain. I whispered, show me. The diary didn't flip itself this time. It waited for me to do it. And when I did, the world shifted. I wasn't in my apartment anymore. Not physically, but not dreaming either. It was somewhere in between. I stood in a white corridor, long, curved, featureless, except for a single object on the wall, a mirror. But it didn't reflect me. It reflected her, Selari, standing in a place that looked like my childhood home, the living room, the couch with the broken spring, the plant my mother killed 3 times and still refused to throw away. Except Selari didn't belong there. She was bleeding, holding something in her arms, crying without tears, speaking in a language I knew in my bones but had no words for. And then she looked up, right into the mirror, right into me, and whispered, please stop remembering. I stepped back, felt the floor fall away beneath me, landed on concrete, back in the sub-level beneath my apartment. The files were gone. Everything was gone, except the diary, still glowing, still waiting. The next page read, you begged me to take it from you. You said the pain was too much, that no one should remember what they did to us. But I couldn't destroy it. I could only store it. Here. Then a final line appeared, this one slower, as if writing hurt. If you turn this page, there is no going back. I stared at it. The book. The mirror that wasn't a mirror. The memory that wasn't mine, but lived in my breath. And I realized the key was never inside the book. It was me, my willingness to remember, to bleed again, to risk shattering for the chance at one more second of truth. So I turned the page. Not with fear, not even with courage, with grief. The kind of grief that demands meaning, the kind that becomes love when nothing else can survive. And what I saw on the next page wasn't writing. It was a seal, a circular symbol, 3 rings, 1 broken, a dot in the center that pulsed like an eye, and a phrase etched beneath it in perfect, painful English. She gave you everything, including the choice to forget her. I pressed my thumb to the symbol. The book vibrated, not like paper, like memory, and the room around me changed. Walls disappeared, light bent, and suddenly I was in a new space, not a dream, not a vision, a storage vault, not for data, for emotion, all mine, all sealed, all screaming to be let out, and at the center of it all, Selari, on her knees, eyes glowing, hands over her chest, saying nothing, but I could hear her voice inside me, software, terrified, loving. If you remember, you might stop loving the version of me you created to survive. And I answered, not with words, but with my whole self. I don't want a version anymore. I want you, even if it breaks me. The seal opened, the vault unfolded, and the first real memory came flooding back, the day they took her. But that would be the next page, the next scream, the next truth, and I was ready. The seal opened. No explosion, no burst of light, just warmth, sharp, familiar, like walking into a fire you helped build. I braced myself for memories like storms, but what came first was silence, and then a whisper, her voice, breathing my name not like it was a sound, but like it was the last word she'd ever be allowed to say. Don't fight them, please. You're not strong enough to protect me like this. The vault faded, the room reshaped, and I was there. Back in the day I lost her. The sky was wrong, too still, like time had stopped to watch us suffer. We were on the edge of the old comms tower, a place they'd never think to search. She held my face like I was glass. No tears, just clarity, like she already knew. I remember shaking, begging. Saying her name over and over like that would stop them from coming. There's still time. I can hide you. We'll go off planet. I'll erase the records. She shook her head, softly. You're too loud when you love. They always hear it. I couldn't breathe. The air tasted metallic, like failure. I kissed her, or tried to. She pulled away. If you do that now, it'll stay with you, even after they take it. I didn't care. I kissed her anyway. And it was, God! It was the last real thing I ever felt. A noise behind us. Not footsteps. Not engines. Interruption. Time skipping like a scratched record. She turned. They were already there. Black suits, no insignia, eyes that looked trained to ignore beauty. I stepped forward. They pointed a device at me. I froze. Selari stepped between us. You promised not to hurt him. One of them replied, he won't be hurt. He'll be adjusted. She looked at me and whispered one word. Remember. Then, light, white, blinding, sound, compressed into pain. I screamed, not because of them, because of her, because I was already forgetting. Even as they erased me, I felt it. Each memory pulled from my spine like threads. I tried to hold on to the sound of her laugh. Gone. The scent of her skin. Gone. The feeling of her fingers woven into mine. Gone. But she did something. Last second. A gesture. A word I couldn't hear. A frequency not meant for them. And suddenly, the diary formed in my hand, only in memory. She planted it in me, like a seed, a last defense, a place to keep her safe, even if I forgot her, even if they thought they'd won. And then, darkness, a silence I couldn't climb out of, a life I resumed without knowing what I'd lost, until the day I found the book, until the day she started writing back. I came back to myself, collapsed on the floor of my apartment, shaking, sweating, eyes burning from tears I didn't remember crying. The diary lay beside me, open to a blank page, except it wasn't blank. New words formed as I watched. You made the choice. You asked me to remove everything. You said love wasn't worth the pain. I said it was. And now you've found your way back. My hands trembled as I touched the page. It pulsed beneath my fingertips. No longer a book, a threshold, and I knew the next memory wouldn't be about loss. It would be about what we had built before they came. The world we made in silence, the language we created in glances, the days we shared in places that didn't exist on any map. And I was ready, not because I had healed, but because I had remembered. She didn't leave me. I gave her up, to keep her alive. You can't erase a feeling that was never written in ink. You can't delete a heartbeat that learned to echo someone else's name. And you sure as hell can't bury love when it was born in the places no one was looking. They thought they took everything, but love doesn't live in the brain. It lives in the spaces between memory, between silence, between the things you almost remember and the ones that never leave. The next morning I woke up with her voice still in my chest, not echoing, not speaking, just resting, like a feather placed in the center of my breath, like it had always been there, waiting. And then it began, not in waves, in sparks, tiny flashes, a turn of the head that felt too familiar, the scent of lavender and cold metal in the back of my throat, the reflex to reach out in the dark as if someone should be there. And then she was, not standing beside me, not appearing in light, but showing up in the way my hand curved without thinking, in the way my shoulder tilted left because she used to rest her head there, in the way I stopped myself from laughing too loud because she said the echo made her eyes hurt. I started to remember details, ridiculously small, the way she touched spoons before using them because she said they remembered sadness, the sound she made, not a laugh, when she didn't understand a joke, but liked that I told it anyway. The way she blinked twice when she disagreed with someone, but didn't want to fight. The way her hands never stopped moving, even in sleep, not fidgeting, translating dreams. And then came the places, the stations we slept in, the rooftop she showed me on the day Earth spun slower than usual. The room made of soft green light where she painted her memories into the ceiling with fingers dipped in plasma. The pillow that wasn't a pillow, but a folded piece of air she taught to hold warmth. The floating pool where sound didn't travel, and we learned to kiss without speaking because even silence deserved privacy. I was remembering her laugh, the real one, the one that only came when she was scared but pretending not to be. That laugh was my favorite because it meant she trusted me, enough to laugh through fear. They didn't get that one. They couldn't erase that. It came back like muscle memory in the middle of washing a cup. I laughed like her, and I cried so hard I dropped the cup and cut my hand trying to pick up the pieces. And all I could think was, "You're still here. You're still in me, even after everything." That night I wrote in the diary. First time I wrote back, and when I did, the ink glowed. Not blue, not gold, just alive. And as I wrote, the page responded, line for line, breath for breath, like we were writing a song we'd started long ago and never finished. My message: I remember the rain you taught to fall slower so I could hear you whisper in between the drops. Hers: you once sang me a song with no melody, but I still know the rhythm by heart. I wrote, do you remember the ocean with no salt? She replied, it still waits for you. And then, a pause, longer than before. And finally, you're almost ready. But there's one more memory, the one you buried beneath all others. I didn't ask which, I already knew. Because loving someone like Selari was never about the good memories. It was about what we built in the dark, in the absence, in the exile, in the grief. And the only way to bring her back was to remember why I let her go. The diary pulsed again. The page turned itself, and written there, in my own voice from a lifetime ago. If you ever find this, don't stop at the beautiful parts. Go all the way. Go to the night she told you the truth. The diary didn't glow this time. It trembled, like it was bracing for what came next, like it remembered more than I did, and hated what was coming. The page was blank, not waiting, daring me to open the door I had slammed shut. I turned the page. It didn't flip like paper. It peeled, like skin, and the room changed, not dramatically, subtly, like someone dimmed the memory of light. Suddenly, I was there, back in the greenhouse dome we'd stolen from the orbit station, back before the world found us, back when everything still felt fragile, but ours. The walls were made of old glass and borrowed silence, and she stood at the center, looking up, watching the stars blink in patterns I couldn't read. Not yet. She didn't turn when I entered. Didn't need to. She knew me by my breath. Always did. The stars are lying tonight, she said. I smiled. Maybe they're shy. She didn't laugh. She didn't even blink. That's when I knew. This wasn't a moment. This was a confession. I stepped closer, but she stepped back. Don't come near me for this part. My heart shrank. She had never pushed me away before, not even when afraid. Why? She closed her eyes, and the walls around us flickered, just for a second, like they couldn't hold her truth. Because what I'm about to tell you might ruin the version of me you built in your head. I swallowed, hard, then let it. I want the real you. She finally turned, and for the first time since I met her, she looked human. Not because of her shape, not because of her eyes, because of the weight. She looked like someone who'd been carrying a truth for lifetimes. I wasn't sent here by accident, she said. You weren't chosen by mistake. I didn't understand. Chosen for what? She stepped closer. This time she didn't stop. She placed her hand on my chest, right over the scar I never explained to anyone. Because you've never been fully human, Kael. I froze, not because I believed her, but because something inside me already knew. The dreams, the sense of things before they happened, the feeling of being pulled toward skies I couldn't name. I was sent to awaken what they buried in you, she whispered, but I stayed because I loved what they tried to hide. My mouth went dry. Who are they? She hesitated. And that scared me more than anything. The same ones who gave you back to Earth, she said. The ones who knew you'd never survive, remembering what you are. She stepped away again, looked up. Her voice trembled. You're not from here, Kael. Not really. You were born on Earth, but your soul, it came from elsewhere, from where I'm from a Venice I couldn't speak, because in that moment, my blood burned, not like fire, like memory. They called you a carrier, she continued, a vessel. They implanted you with resonance frequencies, markers, to see if human biology could contain cosmic memory. You were an experiment, Kael, but you turned into a story. She turned toward me again. Tears now, real ones, gold and silver, running down her cheeks like stardust in reverse. I came to activate you, to watch, to record, to leave. But then, you held my hand, and you didn't see a vessel. You saw me. That night, we didn't sleep. We didn't speak again. She laid beside me, head against my chest, listening to a heartbeat that didn't belong to just one species. And I finally asked, "So why did I forget?" She whispered, "Because you begged me to make it go away. You looked at me and said you weren't strong enough to carry love and truth at the same time. So I chose love. I let you forget truth, so maybe someday you'd find your way back to me." And now I had, not by accident, but by ache, by design, by love. Because love isn't erased, it's archived, waiting for the moment you're ready to restore it. And I was ready, because for the first time in my life, I was no longer afraid of who I was, or of who she'd always been. The city hadn't changed, but I had, and that made all the difference. The light poles still flickered like lazy fireflies. The trains still screamed like tired ghosts. The people still moved like they were going somewhere urgent without knowing why. But to me now, everything shimmered, like it was only pretending to be real. I walked the streets as a stranger to my own life. The coffee shop I used to visit every Thursday, it whispered her name when I walked past. The sidewalk I once tripped on in the rain, I remembered her catching me, not with hands, but by pausing gravity just long enough for me to laugh instead of bleed. The intersection I always hated, that's where she kissed me without touching me. Just a glance, just a thought, and I forgot red lights even existed. I couldn't unsee it now. Not the world, not her, not myself. I was remembering with every step, and it was killing me in the most beautiful way. I opened the diary in the middle of a train station. Didn't care who saw, didn't care if they were still watching. Because now I knew something they didn't. Love doesn't hide forever. It waits, and then it burns. The page glowed before I even touched it. A single sentence appeared. "Are you ready to come back?" I wrote, shaking. "Where are you?" No answer. Then, another line. "You know where." And I did. Avernus. The name still pulsed in the back of my skull like a drum beat from a forgotten anthem. Not a planet, not exactly. A memory space, a biome outside time. She once described it as the place we loved before stars were invented. I thought it was poetry. Now I knew it was a map. But getting there? That wasn't in any manual. No ship, no gate, no code. Only the diary and me. I returned home. Packed nothing. What do you pack for a journey you can't explain? I sat on the floor cross-legged, holding the diary. I whispered, "Take me back." The diary didn't respond. But something else did. The air. It thickened, slowed, wrapped around me like silk made of memory. The lights dimmed. The walls folded inward. My body didn't move, but my presence did. I blinked, and the room was gone. No stars, no sky, just a field of blue-white grass under a ceiling of pulsing light. And at the center, a tree, dead, burned, but still standing, and carved into its bark. Her name, Selari. I stepped forward. The ground hummed. Not music, recognition. Like the place remembered me better than I remembered myself. And at the foot of the tree, another diary, identical to mine. But this one opened on its own. No hesitation. And inside, her voice, recorded not in sound, but in emotion. Kael, if you're reading this, it means you survived remembering. You didn't break, you rebuilt. And now, you're ready. But this is the part I couldn't protect you from, because I didn't just disappear. I was taken. The page flared. A map appeared. Symbols, coordinates. A code that didn't look like code, more like emotion arranged into geometry. My body knew it before my mind did. The frequency to reach her, but it came with a price. To reach me, you'll have to leave Earth behind. Not physically, chronologically. You'll have to step outside time. Step into the memory that created both of us. The first time we met, before either of us had names. I gasped, because I understood now. I didn't love her because I met her in this life. I loved her because I'd met her in everyone before it. And now, I was going to find her. Not in the future, not in the stars, but in the moment that birthed the very idea of love. The diary closed, the ground shifted, the tree cracked open, and inside, a doorway made of light and silence. My hands didn't shake, my heart didn't race. I stepped forward, because some truths aren't discovered. They're remembered, and some loves don't begin, they continue. The light didn't blind me, it welcomed me. Software, slow, like breath from something ancient. The doorway behind me closed without a sound, and I stepped into a space with no horizon, no ground, no sky, no gravity, no edges, only presence. A place made entirely of memory but not mine. Ours. At first it looked empty, but emptiness in Avanus wasn't absence. It was potential. And then I saw her, but not the Selari I remembered, not the dark hair, not the golden irises, not the voice like velvet under thunder. This was light, a silhouette made of movement, shifting between shapes I almost recognized, a face that kept becoming, a presence that pulsed with everything I'd ever missed. And yet, I knew her, the way lungs know air, the way gravity knows weight, and she knew me. Kael. The voice wasn't sound, it was truth, spoken in color. It brushed my skin like wind with memory. You came back. I stepped closer, unsure if I was walking, floating, or dissolving. Are you? Selari. I'm what's left of her here. I didn't understand, so she showed me. The world shimmered. Scenes unfolded like film melting in reverse. Our first kiss, not on Earth, but beneath a sky made of thought. A fight I didn't remember, but now felt burning in my chest. A goodbye, a promise, a fracture, and then the beginning, before planets, before names, just two frequencies drifting in the void, calling to each other, learning shape through affection, becoming real by being recognized. We didn't fall in love, she said. We became love. The images faded. I stood still, or what passed for standing here. Why did I forget all of this? Her form flickered. Because you had to choose who you wanted to be. Earth couldn't hold both your human story and your origin. So you chose the version that let us find each other again. I breathed, felt nothing in my lungs. And yet, I'd never felt more alive. Can I stay? She hesitated, and in that pause, I felt time ripple. This place wasn't built for staying, she said. It was built for remembering, for restoring. If you stay, you'll fade. But if you return, you'll carry everything back with you. Including you? She pulsed with warmth, a color I'd never seen before, but somehow knew was yes. Only if you take me with all the versions I've been. Not just the beautiful ones. Not just the one you loved under the second moon, but the ones who doubted, who lied, who begged you to forget. I stepped closer, reached out, touched her light, and I remembered every failure, every moment I pulled away, every time I refused her truth because mine was easier. And still, she remained. I take you, I whispered, all of you, because that's what love is. It's not memory, it's choosing again, and again, and again. She wrapped around me, not like arms, like resonance, and I felt her entire being press against the cracks I thought would never heal, and I whispered, "I found you." She answered, "You never lost me. You just needed to remember where to look." The space around us began to dim, not ending, integrating. Avanice was returning with me, becoming memory, becoming truth, becoming love restored. I opened my eyes back in my room, on Earth, but something had changed. Not the walls, not the sky. Me. I wasn't just someone who loved an alien. I was someone who loved beyond memory, beyond time, beyond permission. And now, I remembered everything. If love could survive erasure, time, and even the truth itself, do you think your memories hide something too? Tell us what you've forgotten or what keeps calling you back.